Hello, welcome to another edition of Security Africa. We are still talking about COVID-19, the origin, whether it is man-made or not. This is very crucial for the survival of Africa in this 21st century. So it is time to know where these viruses and diseases are coming from. Recall in the part A of this episode, you saw how people were injected with syphilis under the guise of providing health care. That experiment was allowed to run for 40 years. Again, you saw how the Congolese were infected with HIV/AIDS under the pretense of polio vaccination. Why Africa all the time? Now, what has this got to do with COVID-19? Now listen to this. You cannot fully know where COVID-19 is coming from if you don't examine the past outbreaks where they came from. It is also important to know those behind the availability of these viruses and diseases so that Africans can know those to be held accountable for future outbreaks. As far as virus outbreaks are concerned, there are three categories of Africans. First, those killed by the past outbreaks. Second, those infected by the past outbreaks. And third, those to be infected and killed by the future outbreaks. The cases of the two, that is the first and the second, have been settled. We are only interested in the third category. So any virus outbreak puts Africans in these three categories, which is not good for Africa. So how did the first and the second categories become victims? Who were those responsible? In the same way, COVID-19 will put lots of Africans in these three categories. In order to avoid having these three categories of Africans in this outbreak of COVID-19, in this edition, it has become necessary to look back at how Africans became victims in order to escape the COVID-19 projected high death rate for Africa. Coming up next. Welcome back. Apart from the syphilis and HIV experiments, there are other ways Africans have been killed and infected. In 1994, the United States Center for Disease Control, the National Institute of Health, and the World Health Organization decided to conduct a clinical trial of a drug called AZT. They wanted to do that in Africa, and Zimbabwe was chosen to be the trial country. AZT, in the explanation to Zimbabwean authorities, will stop mother-to-child HIV transmission, which was a problem in Zimbabwe as at that time. The Zimbabwean authorities were happy for the assistance from the Americans and the WHO. Consequently, 17,000 women were selected to receive this so-called help. But unknown to the Zimbabweans, these 17,000 women were to be used as guinea pigs to test their new drug called AZT. In addition to the whole conspiracy, not all the women will receive this AZT. Some of them will receive placebo. So it is clear that those that will receive placebo will definitely transmit the virus to their babies. Deliberate infection or not, deliberate infection. Furthermore, the women did not understand the testing method, the effectiveness of the drug, the side effects, and above all, they were under duress. What was the outcome of the trial? It was disastrous for Africa as usual. At the end, over 1,000 babies still contracted the HIV virus from their mothers. Who are those behind this plot? The United States Center for Disease Control, the National Institute of Health, and the World Health Organization. I want you as Africans to watch out for these three names in every clinical trials and virus outbreaks in Africa. Another incident that infected and killed many Africans was the Ebola outbreak of 2014 in the West African countries of Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. That outbreak was disastrous for Africa. At the end of the Ebola outbreak, over 11,000 Africans died mysteriously from a virus called Ebola, it was a terrible year for Africa. When it broke out, just like the COVID-19, Africans were asking, where did Ebola come from? Is it possible that COVID-19 may have come from the same source? So it is important to understand how these Africans died and those responsible for their death. This might probably help Africans understand where COVID-19 came from. So let us ask again, where did Ebola come from?
Welcome back to the Go Training. This is Module 2.1, Introduction to Ebola Virus Disease in West Africa. Let me share with you what we already know about Ebola and check that against your list. Experts tell us that Ebola, the Ebola virus disease, originated in animals. Specifically, it originated in a fruit bat. So, fruit bats who were sick with this disease passed it on, infected other animals. Who are these animals? Chimps, gorillas, and other monkeys. So these monkeys are now sick with Ebola virus disease. And somehow they come into contact with humans. So we see a virus coming from animals and infecting humans. They cross the animal-human boundary, the interface. And how do we think this happened? We think this happened through handling of dead animals, maybe handling and consumption of bushmeat.
Did you hear that? The World Health Organization said that Ebola originated from fruit bats. Then the bats infected monkeys and chimpanzees, and the humans got infected with Ebola by playing with monkeys and eating bushmeat. Can you believe that? Really? So they are indirectly blaming West Africans for the outbreak of Ebola by stupidly playing with monkeys and chimpanzees and eating bushmeat. That is what it means. Africans are supposed not to disbelieve the World Health Organization. But can anyone believe this storyline from the World Health Organization? Because of this storyline, many African countries banned the sale and consumption of bushmeats then. Some unlucky violators were sent to jail for endangering public health. Surprisingly, Africans have been eating bushmeat and living with bats for years. How come it is only in 2014 that 11,000 Africans died from Ebola because they ate bushmeat? Can you see that? You can see what the Western media said was the cause of Ebola. They said the scientists believe that the Ebola index person was a boy playing under a tree who got infected by bats. So said the renowned Daily Mail newspaper. Then what happened thereafter? Maybe the boy infected all the Guineans, then went to Sierra Leone and Liberia to infect other people. I don't know if you believe these stories from the WHO and the Daily Mail as being the origin of the Ebola outbreak of 2014. Sometimes it is difficult for even the storytellers to convince their own audience. The storyline from the WHO and Daily Mail need more substance to make it acceptable by a lot of people. So in the interim, let's consult other sources to see if we can get the truth about the origin of Ebola. In this regard, therefore, we have to consult scientists and bioweapon experts for their opinion. Perhaps through this, we might discover where COVID-19 came from and whether it is man-made or naturally occurring. You will be shocked what these new sources will reveal about the origin of Ebola, including those behind them, coming up in the next episode. Please ensure you don't miss it. Try and press the subscribe button so that the next edition you will get it. Have you pressed the subscribe button? Thank you for subscribing. So, see you in the next episode. Thank you for watching.